Are you looking to establish a powerful online presence for your brand? Look no further than Live the Dream Media. Our team of experts possess the capabilities and skills necessary to make it happen. From creating compelling content to analyzing data and making strategic decisions, we've got it covered. Don't let a lack of social media know-how hold you back. Visit ltdmedia.net for more information.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Clint. I'm here with local Marana, and we've got the mayor back. Good morning, Ed. How are you doing?
I am thrilled to be back, Clint. I got, just a lot of things to talk about.
And we've been off a month or so. We haven't done one of these.
We've been off a month, but neither one of us have been off.
No.
I think we took us about 6 weeks to find a day where we could get together and have a talk this morning.
That's true. Actually, we had breakfast earlier, just for disclaimer. And to put that breakfast together, you and I had 2 or 3 phone calls. We had the spreadsheets out. We were trying to coordinate people's schedule, but we did it. And it was fun, by the way.
It was great fun. What I'd like to talk about today, and this is kind of tongue-in-cheek maybe, but Marana is a victim of its own success. And you think, wow, Marana's really doing well and things are awesome. And that is true. But I kind of want to go into some detail on this discussion.
And we need to cover this, Ed. This is important because as we move forward, all of us that live and work and grow here, we're going to have to navigate these waters that you're getting ready to discuss.
We're going to look under the rock. You see everything out front and everything's going great and everything's doing well. When I say a victim of our own success, I'm even going to talk about housing. We're the fastest growing community really in southern Arizona. Not we can't compete with the state of Maricopa, but we down here. But there are people that fall through the cracks here. And I'm going to explain what I mean. We're selling houses like crazy. Housing values are going up like crazy. But if you're a school teacher in Marana, or a police officer, or a firefighter, or a nurse, and you're young and starting here, either starting a family or whatever, you can't afford to buy a house. And what is happening in Marana now, we have 2 big operations. One's about 400 and one's about 300. They're going to build regular single-family houses, huge neighborhoods, and they're going to rent them all. Because a lot of young people, these professionals I'm talking about, can afford that $2,000 a month payment, but they don't have 50 or 60 to get in the house. Part of the reasoning for that is California. People are fleeing California like crazy. Prices over there are sky high. I have 2 adult children and grandchildren that live there, so I'm aware. A home like in Continental Ranch that would sell for $350 to $450, depending on how big. In Southern California, will sell from 1.2 to 1.5. 3 times to 4 times as much. So what happens is the individual in California, a lot of them work online or a lot of them retire or whatever they're doing. They move to Arizona. They come to Marana to buy a house. And they say, okay, the house is $450,000. They just write you a check. Because they've sold their house over there, the same house, and made $700,000 or $800,000 or $900,000 profit. Our local people can't do that.
Their wages didn't increase at the same pace.
And I'll tell you a little stuff. This is not so much the town. I had 12 lots over in the old Honey Heights neighborhood that I had a mobile home park on. And I sold it to an individual that wanted to come in and build houses, and he moved everybody off, and then he didn't make the payment, so I ended up getting the land back. So I'm looking for a place to sell it, and I'd had it back a few years. And T. Van Hook from Habitat for Humanity came to me and says, I'd like to buy those lots for Habitat housing. Well, I sold them the lots at a discounted price. They actually even gave me a written thing that I had donated a certain amount of money to them. And they built 10 houses, not 12, because houses are a little bigger maybe than mobile homes would be in a mobile home park. And everybody that bought a house in there were all women head of household with 2 to 3 children. And these people have to fall through. They can't be criminal. They can't have a drug past. They can't have anything else. A lot of them are just young women, late 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s, have a job, work hard, and just can't get into the system. Well, they bought that land from me, and all 10 of those houses are built, and all 10 of the families are in there now. They do their own mortgages at a lower rate, and you could buy a 3-bedroom house in there for about $900 a month.
Wow.
New.
Wow.
Now, these are frame houses, no upgrades.
Right.
No fancy carpet or fancy countertops but they have all the appliances.
It's a nice roof over your head.
But it's a brand new house with a big backyard. And
you just opened that.
I just
recently.
did that. They just finished the 10th house, and I got to tell you a little bit personal story here. I was over at the health center getting some lunch right across from the town hall, and this young lady walks up and she says, "Are you Ed Honea?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She looked like she's probably late 30s, maybe. She comes up and gives me a hug, and I'm like, well, of course, an old guy, I'm not, if some young woman wants to come up and give me a hug, I'm not going to gripe about it, And she said, "Mr. Honea, I have 3 children, and I've been struggling along, and I was able to buy one of those 10 homes on the property that you sold at a discount for Habitat."
That's so cool.
I want to tell you, Clint, I almost started crying.
Yeah. Well, you went home and did, because I know your person. How cool was that?
I'm looking at this, and I still can't tell you her name.
Yeah.
Looking at this young woman, 3 children.
Yeah.
She worked at the health center. I mean, I don't know if she was a nurse or worked in the cafeteria there or what she did, but she met all the criteria.
That is
Came
so
up
cool.
and gave me a hug because I made it possible for her and her children to have a home. Not me directly, but I mean selling that land at a discount and Habitat and all that kind of stuff. But
Let me jump in here real quick, Ed. Don't you think that's why Marana is so attractive? There's so many people that exemplify. You were doing that. This is your story.
Right.
But there's so many other stories just like that of that community. And I think that has a huge impact on why we're experiencing the type of growth that we're feeling.
Well, and I agree, but I said I want to take it a little bit further. A police officer or a firefighter or a nurse or a school teacher would not qualify for that Habitat program. They make a little too much, but they can't afford a house.
Right.
So they end up renting or doing something else, unless mom and dad or somebody
can gift them that.
Will gift them the money or even loan it to them to get a down payment to get in, and you pay it back over the years or whatever, But a lot of the people, when I say victim of success, we hire police officers like crazy. We're building new schools. They're building a new one in the Gladden Farms area, K through 8. We are going to be hiring a lot of young people. Most teachers are fairly young in new schools,
typically,
and they end up having to live somewhere else because they can't buy a home in our community. They can rent one maybe or something, and we've got to figure out a way to do something similar to what Habitat is doing. But on
another
that
scale,
intermediate level, like maybe at Habitat, if you make $50,000 or less with a couple kids, and most of those young women were single, you qualify. Well, a police officer makes over 50, but that doesn't mean you can afford to go buy a $450,000 house.
You know, that's important because you know as well as I do, and I have no statistics to back this up, but I've been around long enough to know that when you have home ownership, you own your home,
Right.
and the neighborhood as a whole owns our home. You can tell the difference between that neighborhood and a neighborhood maybe that has a lot of renters in there.
Well, and that's why I said with these
and that's why home ownership is so important, is
new
that pride.
rental housing coming in. I'm thrilled that we're doing that because it will give those people we're talking about, young professionals,
Yeah, kind of a springboard.
and maybe
next
they
level.
have a place to live for 3 or 4 years till they save up enough of a nest egg to get into a house and buy their own home. You know, but that's so important. You know, another thing that's happening in fast-growing communities is you end up having a lot of young families moving in, and I'm thrilled. You know, that's why we have splash pads, and that's why you do things in our parks. We want things for young people to do. In most young families, mom and dad both have to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're trying to save some money for a down payment on a house, or you have 2 or 3 little kids,
Right.
and dance lessons and judo lessons and all this kind of stuff, you know, and feeding the little group. I mean, I saw that inflation had gone down a little bit, everything except for food.
The one thing everybody needs.
And especially a young family with a couple kids, you need food.
Yes.
You know, and all that kind of stuff that's becoming an issue. And a lot of young people are getting to the point, one of them, and sometimes it's a guy and sometimes it's a gal in these programs or in the young family. One of them just stays home because half of their income, if you're a school teacher and you're making $40,000 to start, which is about where you are if you're lucky to make that in this area, and you spend half of that on childcare,
Absolutely.
you know, and then you of course need another car to get back and forth, and you need all of this kind of stuff, you know, and we're even trying to come up with ideas to kind of help some of that. There is an organization locally that you're affiliated with, and I've done some things with the Eric Hite Foundation, and Noemi Hite and all of her group working on this. They have child care for first responders, firefighters, police officers, and military. And their child care is kind of from 5 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night and weekends.
Right.
Because if you're a police officer or a firefighter or a first responder
You're not
or a
working
military
9 to 5 all the
person,
time.
you're not off. You don't work 8 to 5 Monday to Friday.
Right. Hey, let me jump in here real quick for anybody that's hearing this before this weekend. There's a big Eric Hite memorial. David can clean this up for me a little bit later and put the information up. But the run walk is this weekend, so get out and support that.
And what I'm looking at, I'm a big supporter of this organization.
Huge,
and that helps some of the people that are helping us. You know, a firefighter, a police officer, first responder, or a school teacher are helping us, either health-wise or safety-wise or educating our children or doing whatever they're doing. But, you know, they can only serve so many people.
Right. You know, you mentioned real quick, I want to jump in and just put a personal note on that. You were talking about raising the children and raising a family and the cost of daycare and all that. When Tammy and I, our first child was born, we had done the math, and my wife is a teacher or was at that time. She started a preschool in our home. It was a legit preschool, not babysitting.
Right.
And we had done the math. We were going to work for the daycare. with her keeping her
Right.
teaching job
Right.
and had the car and the insurance and all the other stuff. But it made more sense for her in this case to start a home-based business. And then a couple of years later, we had the second child. Well, we would have been working completely for healthcare. And I'm not knocking healthcare providers, but my job shouldn't do. So we were better off doing that. Right. What I'd like to do right now is jump in here. You mentioned the rental. Wouldn't you love to see a builder come to Marana and say, I want to build homes that there are our ownership. In other words, you mentioned a contract for deed a while ago. My parents sold a lot of properties, contract for deed. I've bought homes, contract for deed. Wouldn't that be cool if we could get, I'm calling out builders now, developers, come on in here and open something like that in Marana, because I think long term you'll get your money. And two, we'll have the pride of home ownership.
We're trying to figure out how to do that, and it's more complicated than
it
seems.
I'm sure
That's
it
why
is.
I said I love Marana, and we have been so blessed, and we are doing so well. But sometimes if you look behind the door or under the rock, you see getting into ownership of a house, or childcare becomes an issue. And a lot of those kinds of things. You know, a lot of places are getting to where now, even in neighborhoods, and you could do it up to, I think, 6 kids without a license as a daycare center, is you'll have, and a lot, generally it's a young woman. She will stay with her 2 kids and a couple neighbors in the neighborhood that have a couple kids each. Go to her house in the morning and catch the bus.
Yep.
She will pick them up after school, or they'll come to her house after school and play in the yard and play with her children. And she makes a little bit of money because if all 3 of them go to work as a school teacher making $40,000, it almost doesn't pencil.
Well, it doesn't in most cases.
And, you know, and so I'm saying, yes, we are blessed, but we've got to fix some things behind the front.
When it came up this morning, just in conversation, part of the growth is, growth and our demographics, again, just remind everybody, is 36 or 39.6 is the average age in Marana. Okay. Now you've got a lot of school children showing up.
Right.
We're at capacity right now on our schools, aren't we? So
that was going to be my next thing, is affording a house. Childcare, which is a real issue. And the next thing is even educational. We work hand in hand with the Marana School District. I was at an event yesterday with Dr. Streeter, Dan Streeter, the superintendent of schools. Great guy, young man. He has a couple kids in school. And we were talking about building new schools in the Marana School District. And all of the new schools are going to be K through 8. And you say, well, why would you do that? Well, what they're trying to do is eventually most of the elementary type schools in Marana will be K through 8 because we need another high school.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2,400 kids in Marana High School. I think it's the largest high school in Pima County. 40 years ago, it was the smallest.
Mm-hmm.
And Marana Mountain View is about 2,000 students and stuff. And looking at the possibility, and this is thinking out loud, I even told the superintendent, Dan, that I might even help them with a bond issue. I'm kind of a right-wing guy, and I'm not out there on the bonds, but if it'll do something to help our people, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I said, if we can get a couple more of the elementary schools, Estes Elementary, if we can turn that into a K through 8, and we have room there, you take 300 kids.
Right.
And then you go up the road to other Rattlesnake Ridge or something or Coyote Trails in Continental Ranch. And you turn those K through 6 into K through 8s, and you take 300 kids at each of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have emptied out Marana Middle School that has 1,500 kids, and you turn it back into a high school. It was the original Marana High School. They have a football stadium there. They have a basketball arena there. They have an auditorium there. They have parking for 500 cars there. You know, it's close to the freeway and on a main road. And what you do, and I told him I would work with him, because I think if you talk to citizens and say, yeah, your house property tax may go up $100 a year. I mean, over thousands of homes. But if we can get another high school, we don't have to have 2,400 kids in Marana High School. Yeah. And I want to work on that and then turn Marana Middle School. It won't be Marana High School again because they moved out to Amy Road in Sandario, but maybe it's Aver Valley High School or whatever it's going to be. And you get a new high school. A couple reasons for doing that. A lot of young families, say if they have 3 kids or 4 kids, and I encourage young people to have kids. You know, our country is growing. There's going to be jobs and there's going to be opportunities and stuff out there. If you have a 3rd grader, a 5th grader, and a 7th grader, if they're all in the same school, how much easier it is to get your kids to school.
Yeah, trust me.
Or know where they are. Or maybe the 7th grader holds the hand of the 3rd grader as they're crossing the street and walking down to the school. So, I mean, you have your children in a school together and get that done. And the other issue is a high school is $70 to $90 million. Well, Marana Middle School is already a high school.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if you build these other K through 8, you add the 7th and 8th grade wing on Coyote Trails, Rattlesnake Ridge, and Estes Elementary, you've emptied that school out. You still have middle schools. And, you know, at first, a lot of the kids and parents didn't like that concept. We have 2 schools like that now, the Dove Mountain K through 8, who has a waiting list for people to get into the school now, and Twin Peaks K through 8 on Twin Peaks and Continental Ranch. We added a 7th and 8th grade wing. And I'm talking about the school. We're all Marana citizens. We work together. And the idea is, let's empty that middle school out. It will make it easier for parents with 3 or 4 kids to go to the same school.
Right.
Turn it back into a high school, which is right there in the vicinity of all the schools I'm talking about. Save the taxpayers a whole lot more money, because building these 3 or 4 7th and 8th grade wings on these other schools
will be a fraction of the
is not $70 to $90 million. It might be $10 million a school, or even 15. But I mean,
you're going to save half or more, you know,
and you're going to save half the money. You're going to make it easier on the parents, and you're going to build a high school that's on a huge piece of property in one of the fastest growing places in Marana, North Marana.
Right.
And you got your 3rd high school.
And, you know, I was thinking as you said that, you won't really, I don't see this because of the growth. I think that's just going to absorb the newcomers. I don't think we're, unfortunately, going to be able to decrease the numbers in a lot of these other schools because we're growing, and you know this at a pace like crazy. But what's happening
with a lot of the newcomers, Clint, is I told you we're building a new in Gladden Farms, fast-growing community. It's going to be a K through 8.
Right.
So we're going to absorb some of the newcomer children right there. So what this will do is alleviate the problem we have now.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
It will save a ton of money, but it's going to cost some money.
But you could almost start, if the will was there right now, you could almost start putting the wheels in motion for this now, which we need.
No, and when I talked to Dr. Strader, Dr. Dan, I call him, and I said it should be Marana, town of Marana, Marana Public Schools, Marana Healthcare, Northwest Fire District, and a bunch of us, the Chamber of Commerce or whatever, getting together.
Yep.
Is let's work on childcare. You got Eric Height Foundation, and Noemi Height does a wonderful job.
Yeah, they do.
And it's a wonderful organization. But it doesn't serve, it might serve 100 or a couple hundred families. They have 4 or 5 different locations. We need to come up with an answer. And maybe the answer is the town and the health center and the school district, either through resources of buildings we already have, maybe we pool some of our money, and these would be restricted to, if you're a Marana school teacher, a Marana firefighter in Northwest, which is about half the district, a Marana police officer, or a Marana park and rec worker, or a Marana administration worker, or a Marana roads worker, your children can go into this program. We're going to set up childcare to take care of you. And the thing I'm talking about is I'm tired of talking about it.
Yeah. Let's get busy.
Let's do something.
Yeah, let's roll our sleeves up. And Ed, we talk about this all the time. It's so important. Our children are so important. They're our most valuable resource. Right. We've got to do everything in our power to provide them and their parents as many opportunities to be successful.
And I said, we can take that to other lines. The school district uses a lot of fuel. The town uses a lot of fuel. Different other entities use a lot of fuel. Maybe we start looking at fuel contracting. And we all work together as a larger group. And we buy diesel and gasoline together.
Yeah.
So that we can lower the cost for us. And it concentrates on us. And when I talk about us, I'm talking about the town of Marana and the surrounding area in the Avar Valley, Pitcher Rocks, even Pinal Air Park and stuff like that. Those are Marana citizens, really. They send their kids to school here. They shop here. They do everything
business
here.
Yeah.
But I said we are doing better than most. We are actually blessed. But there are things behind the scenes. And when I say a victim of our own success, I am smiling. I don't want our success to stop.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to figure out some of the things that are not in the spotlight.
Well, there's more responsibility. The more you have and the more going on, the more moving parts there are, the more that we all have to be responsible for.
And it gives you a reason. If you come to work for the town of Marana, and you know that you can get maybe a little bit of subsidized childcare, that might be a reason to come. Or Marana School District, or, like I said, Northwest Fire District, or whatever. And we share our resources. The school and the town share resources now. The school district has their board meetings in the town of Marana's council chamber.
It should be.
Because they meet on a different night. They're town of Marana citizens anyway.
Yeah.
And we share a couple parks. The park at Coyote Trails, I talked to you about that before. During the school day, they use the park and the restroom there. The school maintains the park. We maintain the restroom, the town. It's right there on the walking path.
Ed, that's why people want to move here.
But in the summer, school's not in. We use the park and the restrooms.
That's why people want to move here. I mentioned this at breakfast this morning. Where we are now, it's not by accident.
But we can't.
We can't rest on our laurels, and I understand
fix
that. But
things behind the scenes, you have to have. One of the things that I said today at the meeting that we were doing, you can't worry about who gets the credit.
Right.
Because if Northwest Fire is doing better,
we're all doing
better.
It's
a safer neighborhood.
We're all doing better.
People are going to move to Marana.
Exactly.
They're going to go to Marana schools.
Exactly.
If Marana schools are doing better, they have better, safer schools, and they have better maybe childcare or different things that we could do together. People will come here, and we all gain from
each other's victories.
Happened.
Part of that, Ed, and I'm going to do a little shout out to you guys again, and it's because the leadership that your parents, your grandparents, the other families that we've talked about. Right. This is not by accident. There has been thoughtful consideration that's gone into this. And as we grow as a community, what we all have to do, all of us, is make sure we're tapped into those conversations, because it's real easy to Monday morning quarterback when it's done. Oh, I like this, I don't like that. But you guys are Ed, I'll say this again. The people that are in charge, the leadership in the town of Marana is A plus.
You know what?
You guys are in the community. You're actively involved. You're talking to people. You're listening. You're using the resources. You have a vested interest. That's why we're growing.
You know, another thing that you're starting to see is you have to be innovative. I'll even talk about school teaching, and I think Marana is doing this now. Most school teachers are young women. Not all, but most.
Percentage-wise.
And most of them have children.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two young women fairly close to Gladden Farms Elementary, and they're both elementary school teachers. They share a class. 1 week, one of them works 3 days, the other one works 2. The next week, the one that works 2 works 3 days, and the other works 2. And when they're not working, they take care of the other teacher's children.
See, I love that. I've been saying stuff like that for years.
No, but I mean,
I love it.
That's why I'm saying I'm trying to get this organization started with the school district, the fire district, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and fix it to where people. Let's think outside the box, people. Yeah, we're victim of our success, and I'm laughing while I'm saying that because I can't think of anywhere in Arizona I'd rather live than in the town of Marana.
We're here by choice, not accident.
But if two young teachers can share a classroom, they stay sharp in their teaching skills. They can probably get even insurance through the school. If the town of Marana, if you work 20 hours, even a half-time employee will give you insurance.
Well, both of them would qualify.
And so both of them would qualify for that. You have somebody watching your children that you don't pay because the next week you're going to be watching their children. And it could be a week and a week or 3 and 2 or whatever you want to do. And the children are used to both of you. And you share a job. And even in the town, I would have no problem with sharing jobs. Of course not. If there are people that want to do that. And even that would apply to retired people.
Absolutely.
A lot of times retired people retire. And if I ever get old enough to retire, I might want to do that is, you need an extra $500 a month. Well, fine. We need somebody to work at the front desk, answering questions. Maybe you share that with another retired person. Right. And you share that job. You've got to be creative and think out of the box. We've also gone to the 9-8 type thing. We're kind of trying to institute in the town of Marana. Our police work 410s now, but there are enough of them. There's 110 officers and there's 25 people in dispatch. We can do that kind of stuff. But with other people like road crews or park and rec or administrative people and stuff, is the 9-8 type program is 1 week you work 9 days every day. So you banked 5 hours. The next week, for 4 days, you work 9 hours. Or no, for 3 days you work 9 hours. You banked your 8, and then on the 4th day you work 8. Right. And then you get an extra day off. Yeah. Well, you've still been there, whether it's patching a pothole or mowing the grass or teaching, doing whatever. You're still putting in your 40 hours. But every other weekend, you get a 4-day weekend. You know what? Or a 3-day weekend.
You know what I love about this thinking, Ed? The thought you're talking about, that's entrepreneurial, which is unheard of in the bureaucratic world.
Well, it's so hard to get.
Because everybody thinks it has to be this way, and it doesn't have to. As long as the outcome is what we need it to be.
Right. It's hard to get school teachers.
I get it.
It's hard to get police officers.
I get it. But if you offer them some creative perks along the way.
You know where police officers in Marana are coming from right now?
Yes, sir, I do, actually, but you tell them.
Well, I'm going to tell you, for a long time, it was City of Tucson. Now they're coming from Pima County Sheriff Department.
Yeah.
And I mean 3 or 4 a month.
Yeah.
And we're taking, and of course, if you have a problem over there, we don't take you. Right. But if most of the people at TPD and SO are good people.
Yeah.
Maybe they have bad leadership in some of the stuff, But what I'm saying is, if you don't start coming up with these innovative programs, how's it going to work?
Yeah.
Or even being innovative.
Well, it's not going to work, Ed, because we live in the world you and I grew up in, it's gone. It doesn't exist
Now, we've
anymore.
mandated that all our people come to work. You can't be a police officer, that man or woman, at home.
No.
You can't fix roads.
No.
At home.
No.
You can't work in the park.
No.
At home. You can't be our animal control.
No.
At home. About the only people that could do some work at home is maybe legal team or financial people.
People that are pushing paper.
A lot of white-collar people. Yeah. And we just told everybody you got to come to work. But that doesn't mean
that we all gather around the clock and we do that. No.
You try to figure out ideas. So Jane Doe, who works in finance, one of her children has COVID and is going to be home for a week or 10 days. Yeah. Well, you know what? If Jane Doe could do her job primarily at home,
good.
All right, for that week that your child is homesick and, we're talking about children are important to us.
Right.
Fine. You can work at home for that week, or you work half days at home and your husband covers the other half day or something like that. Then you're going to come back to work full time, 40 hours.
Yeah.
But if you're not innovative in a very successful, fast-growing, younger community, then you're going to fail.
Yeah. Well, who was it? Jack Welch. Remember Jack Welch with General Electric? He goes, if you're not innovating, you've already lost. Now, he was talking in business, but that would apply at any facet in life, isn't it? If you're not thinking and moving forward, you're actually dying on the vine.
And people say, well, you shouldn't grow. I'm going to give you some places that are not growing. New York City used to be 11 million. Now it's 8.5.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shrinking. It's still the biggest city in the country, but it's shrinking.
Yes, it is.
Chicago is shrinking.
Same.
Los Angeles is shrinking. And they're coming here. The number one county in the United States that is losing people, L.A. County, California. Yeah. The number one county in the United States that is gaining people, Maricopa County, Arizona, 90 miles up the road.
Yeah.
They're coming, people.
Yeah, and they're coming fast.
People.
Yeah.
And so we need to prepare, but we're going to have to be innovative in the way we do it. I laugh when I say we're a victim of our own success. I want you to come here because if you start shrinking, Tucson was anti-growth.
Yeah.
Detroit was anti-growth.
Yep.
Well, Detroit almost was the sixth largest city in the United States and a very wealthy city.
Yeah.
And it virtually just went bankrupt and fell apart.
They're ran by the state now. Pretty much. I mean, the state had to take control of Detroit.
If you look at Tucson, and I love Tucson. My mother was born here. My brother and sister and I were born here. My kids were born here, and one of my grandchildren. I don't hate Tucson, but how you manage it.
Yeah.
You see horrible streets. You see bums and drug addicts in the parks and stuff. We want to continue to grow, but you're not going to see that in Marana. That doesn't mean if we have homeless people or drug addicts that we won't pick them up, take them to Gospel Rescue Mission or take them to a county home or try to get them in touch with food banks or religious organizations that'll feed them or whatever. But you're not going to camp in our parks.
Yeah.
That's for our families.
Which just, to me, personal opinion, that's disrespectful to the
right.
homeless person.
I mean, and
let's
we're
do
not
a better
mean
job
to
taking care
them.
of this.
We will try to facilitate them, but you're not going to live in our park or on our streets.
Hey, we'll have to save that for another day, Ed, because you know what? That all goes back to our mental institutions and stuff. That's where this whole thing got sideways on the homeless. Is we criminalized them.
Well, I see David coming with the hook.
Yeah.
So
we are going to have to pull it. Hey, you know what? It's been too long, Ed. We're going to have to. I was talking to him off camera. We're going to have to go back to a little more of our normal routine. But in all fairness, Ed and myself, but Ed has been super busy leading the town of Marana. I mean, I see your schedule.
You want me to come and talk to your church or synagogue or mosque? You want me to come to your school and talk to your children? You want me to come to your civic or social organization and speak? Give me a call. I'll work you into the calendar, and I will come and talk to you.
He will. Hey, guys, we're going to cut it right here. Ed, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Clint.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hey, local Marana, keep spreading the word. We appreciate you. Talk to you soon.